The price of betrayal. A reputation forged in fire. I always knew I was not a man to be crossed. I built my life on the belief that my name carried weight, whether in business, on the streets, or at home. My reputation was solid, and when words were not enough, my fists spoke for me. I never begged, complained, or felt sorry for myself. I despised weakness. I rose from nowhere, fought with endless hardships, and never let them take what rightfully belonged to me. Not my wife. The encounter with Sophia. Beauty and possession. Sophia. The perfect lady in my line of sight, curves that will catch everyone, and a subtle smile that only hints at it being worth all the dying done for. And when she came to meet him for the first time, she played with him until he took her into his fold. I crossed every barrier in my life before she encountered them. I gave her many women's fantasies, a rich flat, international tours, and precious ornaments. But at all times I gave her my security. I was never a feeble or timorous husband. On every front of my thinking I loved her. Indicators of infidelity. All at once subtle, changes began to include late nights and faceless friends, along with an abrupt change in the perfume she wore, carrying others' scent how she'd quickly check her phone in turning to sides to text. She thought this was careful, but not him, because it had been well over something. Undeniable evidence, a slip-up mistake, that it would all reveal it was all there, waiting for. The find. The message that had changed everything. One night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. The message contained an image of another man with a caption that made my jaw tighten. Your wife's favorite toy. In that instant, I felt a rising, pure, hot anger. It was not just cheating, but he was not only cheating, but also challenging my authority, and he was insulting me. So she shows up at our apartment, and it's gone. Everything that I had given her, every piece of furniture, all of my clothes, all of my jewelry, was gone. There was nothing on the walls, nothing on the floors. One wall had one taped-up, blown-up picture of the note with my note written in black, bold ink. I hope it tasted good. But that was not anywhere near what lay in store in the bedroom for her. Volume My Past and the Making of a Man. I met Sophia when I was 28, already a man that other men feared. I came from nothing, no rich parents or safety net. My father was a cruel drunk who made threats in a place of blows instead of words, and my mother suffered silently. By the time I turned 16, I was fighting, first on the streets, later in underground rings, where money and pain forged my resolve. As I met Sophia, I was already a grizzled man. All my real estate and secret deals with my toughened reputation had made sure no one ever dared to cross me. Sophia was a whole different story. She had this look of high class, the kind of woman you might see with some wealthy heir, but she had a wild streak, too. I saw it the first time we locked eyes at a gala. She played coy, but I knew a woman like that wanted a man who took charge. And that is exactly what I did. Within a year of meeting her, we were married. Now life became an unstoppable whirlwind of luxury and everything around, expensive cars, exotic vacations, diamonds, and silk sheets. 2 years after the wedding day, my first child was my son, Daniel. To my own thinking, everything in this life seemed so ideal. A beautiful wife, a healthy and robust boy to carry the family name and living in enviable splendor. But this is where disaster hit, when she got someone else pregnant for their future security. Sixth, defending the betrayer. This was not fair because I had invested money, loyalty, and love in her. I never deviated nor destroyed her, but gave another man room to mock all that I've worked for. That cannot be right. The moment I read that text, I acted. I tracked down the man using my connections. Within an hour, I had all his details. His name was Dominic Carter, a man who believed his muscles and ego made him invincible. I drove straight to his place and, without knocking, kicked his door in. Dominic was sitting on his couch, scrolling through his phone when he saw me, and his face turned pale. "Do you think you're funny?" I asked in a calm voice. Calm, yet filled with impending storm. I punched him in the jaw, solid as a punch, before he could even open his mouth and respond. He crumpled and was taken up by the collar. I grabbed him for a slamming against the wall until drywall cracked. "She's my wife," I spat. "Not yours. She came to me." In his futile efforts to speak, he gasped, "She begged for it." That was the final provocation. I hit him until I heard something break. Then I took his phone and saw all his messages and photos. There was this video. Sophia, naked with him, as if I were nothing. Realizing this was more than an affair, it was total betrayal. I made sure Dominic understood the gravity of his mistake. "You made a mistake," I warned him before ensuring he would not walk straight for a long time. 7. The confrontation with Sophia. When Sophia finally returned home that night, she had no idea what awaited her. She did not know that I had seen everything, her messages, the videos, every detail of her infidelity. She walked into our empty apartment and instantly saw the picture on the wall with my message underneath. Her face turned pale, and she dropped her purse. She opened her mouth to say, "Oh my God, Michael, But I cut her short with a cold, steady voice. "Go on. Say whatever excuse you have," I said. She cried and looked at me like I was the monster who had shattered her world. And I knew then that she was never sorry. Just sorry for getting caught. I led her into our bedroom, where an ugly surprise scene had been prepared for her. The bed, mattress, and silk sheets were gone. Instead, there stood a table displaying stark reminders of her infidelity. Her wedding ring, printed copies of every single text message she sent, a USB drive labeled "Play Me," a neatly folded outfit the very same she was wearing in that video, and at its center, a blood-stained baseball bat. Horror crossed her face. "What did you do?" she whispered. I smiled coldly. "I handled it." Sophia collapsed to her knees, crying. "Michael, I never wanted you to find out this way," she pleaded through her tears. I scoffed. "Is that all you care about? How I found out? You not only betrayed me, but you let another man humiliate everything we built." I pressed in, pulling her chin and forcing her eyes to my face. "Why, Sophia? Why him?" There was a long silence, and then she confessed, "You scared me. You were too strong, too intense, and I could not breathe while you were in the room with me." I laughed harshly. "You think running off to someone else's attention will free you in some way?" She closed her eyes and spoke in a whisper. "Dominic was better than you at nothing. Less. Less demanding, less controlling, less everything. And for that freedom was what I longed." I leaned in closer. "Want to be free?" she whispered. It was one glance, and from my pocket came a key clinking against keys, which dropped in front of her. "This is the new home key," I said glacially, and before them stood an empty closet, whose sole occupant was a lumpy suitcase, all the lace, silk, and designer clothes missing. "You asked for less?" I sneered. "This is nothing you have." "It's Daniel," she said tearfully. "What about him?" My jaw snapped shut. "Our son? You do not deserve to be his mother." She gasped, but I pressed on. "I have evidence to show you deserted your family for a wild lifestyle of reckless abandon. No judge will ever give you custody." Her face contorted in despair. I didn't mean for it to go this far," she wept. I handed her those divorce papers that were already signed. "Sign these, and you walk away with something," I said. "Michael, stop! Let me explain!" she shouted as I walked away from her to end our life in this similar post-apocalyptic ruin of our marriage and family. I thought with the divorce papers she would sign and then be gone from my life. But deep inside of myself, I knew she was going to fight. 2 weeks went by in silence, during which I was busy with my son, my business, and trying to forget Sophia. One evening, I received a call from my lawyer. "She's contesting the divorce," he said. "She's fighting for custody of Daniel." I almost crushed my phone in anger. "What?" I demanded. She had no job, no money, and no home. However, she was trying to get custody. I called in a few favors, and pretty quickly, the truth came to the surface. She had been drugging it up, boozing it up, and living life very loosely. I collected enough information to bury her in court, so I would definitely ruin her reputation completely. She called that night before the first hearing. Her voice was weak and full of remorse. "Michael, please, I screwed up. I told her you had everything, Sophia, a man who adored you, a family, a home, and you burned it all down." She whispered, "I signed the papers." I smiled ice cold. "Good." Then she asked softly, "Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" I paused and said, "No." And then I hung up. That was the last chapter. Sophia disappeared from my life. No calls, no texts, no custody battles, because she knew she had lost. I later learned she was living in a rundown apartment, barely scraping by. Dominic left town after our encounter. I walked away. I focused on my son, my business, and getting my life back. Did I ever wish I hadn't done what I did? No, not once. She ended up getting what she had coming to her. I won. Conclusion. This is the story of a man who built his life on strength, loyalty, and control, only to have everything shattered by betrayal. When deceit threatened to destroy all that I had worked for, I took decisive action. My path was ruthless, but it was my way of preserving what was mine. The price of betrayal proved to be higher than anyone could imagine in the end.